What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. This is TFD checking in with another update. And today we've got to talk about Caitlin Clark once again because she is officially back in the headlines. Over the weekend, Team USA quietly updated her headshot and adjusted her bio information. And almost immediately, the internet picked it up. As usual, once Caitlin Clark's name starts moving, the content starts circulating fast, and that's exactly what we're seeing right now. For this one, we've got to zoom out a little and look at the bigger picture. I hope everybody's having a solid day, because today's breakdown is less about hype clips and more about where this whole thing is actually heading. Team USA wrapped up the weekend with a lot of new footage dropping, and naturally, all eyes were on Caitlin Clark's return to the floor. I was especially interested in the numbers, how people were responding, how the algorithm reacted, and whether the momentum matched the noise online. To be completely transparent, I'm about 50-50 on whether the algorithm is exactly where it needs to be. Day one, the numbers were fluctuating, up, down, sideways. Day two looked similar. By day three, though, we saw a noticeable drop-off, and that tells me something important. Yes, there is still a large audience that is invested in Caitlin Clark, but there's also a sizable group that simply is not locked into women's basketball content long-term. That's just reality, and I'm always going to keep it real with you. I'm not here to inflate numbers, buy views, or pretend everything is perfect. That's never been what this channel is about. From day one, this platform has been built on honest Caitlin Clark coverage, tracking the hype, the interest, and the real data behind it. If I'm going to be the go-to source for Caitlin Clark-related information, then transparency matters. You deserve to know exactly where things stand. Now, looking ahead, we all expect Caitlin Clark to be back on the court if the 2026 season actually happens, and that if is important. As of right now, there are still no concrete updates on the WNBA-CBA negotiations. From what's being reported, another proposal was presented between the league and the players, and once again, it was not accepted. That keeps the clock ticking. January 6th marks a critical point in this process. That 6-week window is huge. If we don't see meaningful progress, or at least an extension by March or April, the league is in serious danger. A lockout is the absolute worst-case scenario, especially right now. You do not want to pause momentum when viewership is already trending downward. And let's be honest, Unrivaled isn't a safety net. The numbers last year didn't justify confidence in it carrying the sport through a prolonged shutdown. If Unrivaled had delivered strong viewership, this conversation would be different, but it didn't, and that matters. I know some fans will push back and say the future looks bright. I'm not going off feelings, I'm going off numbers most people aren't seeing. Right now, those numbers do not paint a strong picture for 2026. That's why tracking Caitlin Clark's impact is so important. That's why keeping her visibility high matters. Without that, this whole surge risks becoming a one-hit moment. And I'd rather tell you the truth than sell you a fantasy.
And with that being said, man, we've got to head over to X and check out the latest updates coming out about our girl. This was the update that dropped today about Caitlin Clark. Shout out to the off-season Caitlin Clark sources who said Caitlin's profile and headshot have been updated on USA Basketball's website. So this right here is the new and improved-looking Caitlin Clark. Now, as you can see from this picture, just judging by her shoulders, it looks like she's lost a good amount of weight. And this is the Caitlin we want to see. This is the Caitlin that pulls up from the logo. And judging by the footage that came out this weekend, there were a lot of logo threes being knocked down. Another thing the off-season update included was a refresh of her professional information. This is Caitlin Clark's updated professional notes, and it's another sign that things are clearly moving behind the scenes. Professional notes. Quote, in her rookie season with the Fever, Clark set league single-season 337 and single-game records 19 in assists, broke the rookie scoring record 769, and became the first rookie to achieve a triple-double. was named the 2024 WNBA Rookie of the Year, the third Fever player to earn the honor. Additionally, was the only rookie selected to the All-WNBA First Team, becoming the first rookie since 2009 and only the fifth overall to ever be named to the league's first team. Drafted number 1 overall by the Indiana Fever in the 2024 WNBA Draft. Shout out to Caitlin Clark, man. Every time you look at her stats, it just hits you all over again. The numbers don't lie. They remind you exactly how special she is and why her impact on the game is already legendary. Now, moving on to something else. Caitlin looked like Caitlin Sabrina Merchant about Caitlin Clark at the Team USA camp. Things we all wanted to hear, and also something else we're going to talk about, is Annie Costabile, who became the first reporter to sit down and do an interview after being granted access to Caitlin Clark. She spoke about what she saw up close during that time, and we're going to get into that shortly.
Then in their very near future, and we wrote about that on the site, just like how people have been perceiving the negotiations and what still affects them and what they're thinking about with regards to the new collective bargaining agreement. But for now, just good time at camp, 3 days in North Carolina, a little snow on one of the days, just a little taste of the winter in the South. But
right.
Yeah, it was interesting just to see what Carol Lawson is prioritizing in terms of how she wants to make her imprint on this program. And just fun to see the players in a live game situation again, because you think about Caitlin hasn't played since July 15th,
Yes.
There are 4 sparks
Yes.
of this camp. Their season ended on September 11th, right? So it's been a long time since any of them have really played competitive basketball. You saw some situations where Caitlin's stuck guarding Kelsey and Kelsey's, knocking her off the ball, and Caitlin gets called for a foul and she starts yelling at the refs she's grabbing me, and all of the coaches from WNBA teams who are sitting there watching are just cracking up. Kelsey had one situation where she sort of finished through traffic. She'd been struggling a little bit, got through to the hoop, just yells right in Becky Hammon and Nikki Fargas's face, and they're just cracking up like classic Kelsey.
Right. Stirring it up. I love that. Yeah. I love that you could see the storylines continue from the W season into this camp. And I want to particularly hit on 2 things that you wrote about. Just Caitlin Clark being back on the court. You also got a quote out of Sue Bird about her being impressed with Caitlin just being engaged while she was out and getting back to being able to play. A little bit about what Caitlin looked like on the court, how much fun she was having, how important it was. And then someone else, Angel Reese on the other side, talking about Chicago. That was the article I was not expecting.
Yeah, so we'll start with Caitlin. Obviously, she suffered just a bevy of injuries in her sophomore season, played her last game on July 15th, even before All-Star Weekend. This was her first real 5-on-5 action since that injury with the Fever, and it was a combination of USA players going against USA players and then also USA players going against the scout team, which was just players from small colleges all across North Carolina sort of helping out with that scout team practice. And she looked like Caitlin, right? The step back 3 was there, the passes were there. When she was not playing with Aaliyah Boston, some of the bigs didn't know what to do with their passes. There was one time where she passed it to Hamby, and Hamby brought the ball down. It's you can't do that. This is not.
You gotta keep it up.
You have to keep it up, right?
Straight up, right.
Just not expecting, where that was coming. But FIBA, naturally, just a lot more physical than other levels of basketball, even more physical than the WNBA, which is, something to be said considering all the conversations we had about that level of physicality during this 2025 season. So having to see Caitlin go at scout team players who were, instructed to play at a FIBA level of physicality was interesting considering how long she's been out and the fact that she's still ramping up injury-wise, but she looked good. She was just so happy to be there and was individually telling media members how nice it was just to talk to them again and that she was just part of the basketball process, even if that includes all of these other responsibilities.
To wrap it all up, this camp felt less about results and more about reconnecting with the game itself. After months away from true 5-on-5 competition, just seeing these players back on the floor, competing, chirping, laughing, and carrying over storylines from the WNBA season was a reminder of how much this level of basketball thrives on chemistry and edge. For Caitlin Clark in particular, simply being back in live action was the biggest takeaway. The skill, the vision, and the confidence were still there, but more than anything, you could feel her joy in being part of the process again. At the same time, the camp offered a glimpse into how USA basketball is shaping its identity under new leadership, emphasizing physicality, intensity, and engagement even in a short window. Add in unexpected storylines like Angel Reese's comments on Chicago, and it's clear this camp was about more than just drills. It was about momentum. As conversations around the new CBA and the future of the league continue, this felt like an important first step forward, setting the tone for what's coming next for both these players and the program.
Now, moving on to something else. Annie Costabile sat down with the Indy star yesterday, and I'm not even gonna lie, I didn't watch the entire thing, but I genuinely thought this interview would perform better. I really did. For an interview like this to not even crack 1,000 views is kind of wild when you really think about it. That's why I'm gonna do my part and hype it up a little. No hate, no smoke, none of that. I want to see everybody win, but win the right way. No buying views, no buying subscribers, just organic growth and real support. That's how you build something that actually lasts. Now, this interview features Annie Costabile and Chloe Peterson from the Indy Star. As of right now, this video is sitting at around 450 views, which honestly surprised me. Chloe Peterson, like I've mentioned before, is one of the first WNBA reporters to really come out and speak in detail about what she personally saw when she was granted access to Caitlin Clark. That alone makes this interview worth checking out. The full interview is available on the Indy Star's platform, and it's nearly 2 hours long. They cover a lot of ground, not just Caitlin Clark, but the environment around her, what she looked like up close, and the overall vibe during that access period. That kind of first-hand perspective is rare, and it adds real value to the conversation. So if you haven't seen it yet, I definitely recommend checking it out. For now, though, let's focus in on the part where they specifically talk about Caitlin Clark and break down what stood out the most.
We're in the early stages of seeing that shift, and that is I think exciting, because one thing you hear about Team USA and its ability to uphold that winning standard is its development of players. And so seeing this group come in for their first senior national team camp was exciting. And I think there's a lot of work that obviously needs to be done. Caitlin coming off of this injury, this was kind of the first time that we all have seen her operating at 100% since her injury. And she herself admitted, like, even though I feel like I'm at 100, there's still a lot of things that a lot of rust that I need to shake off. So I just think seeing these young players come in for the first time was probably the most noteworthy aspect of USA Camp in Raleigh this past weekend.
And obviously, nationally, there was a lot of interest with Caitlin Clark, and obviously locally, we're Indy Star here. A lot of interest in Caitlin Clark returning. Just what did you see from her play? Did she impress? I know Cara Lawson talked highly of her, Suber as well. Just like, what did you see from Caitlin in USA Camp being healthy?
Still there. That was one of my leads, was just, that shot of hers that we're also familiar with, very much still there. Her speed was coming back, which I thought stood out. Obviously, her timing on passing, that still was impressive. I think defensively, which anyone I think who watches Caitlin's game knows that's an area that needs to improve. And so watching her against Kelsey Plum was funny, just because again, this is something we know, like anybody who watches basketball knows that that's a part of Caitlin's game that stands to improve. So yeah, watching her go up against Kelsey was and still knowing that she has this rust to shake off was a bit telling. And then seeing her and Paige on each other, I think It's I don't think it's a matter of one versus the other. You're watching and kind of evaluating how these two players are gonna operate together one day. And so I think that was more exciting than telling at all. I saw someone ask me like, oh, who online, who's standing out and who looks like someone that's going to get cut. And it's just, that's not the purpose of this camp. You know, this is not a camp that's like, oh, hey, you're no longer going to be in the pool after this one camp, you know? So I think, those were some of my takeaways.
Is that your only question, Chloe?
Yeah. Do you have a question?
Oh, shit.
So that was Annie Costable, man. If you want the full context and the complete breakdown, you can check out the entire interview over on the Indie Star YouTube channel. I definitely recommend giving it a watch and supporting the original work. Drop down in the comments and let me know what you thought about the interview and the points that stood out to you the most. Make sure you keep those notifications turned on because we'll be back very soon with more Caitlin Clark updates and coverage.